Hello everyone and welcome to episode 129 of the Cherry Heart podcast. I am Sandra and this is a podcast where I talk about crochet, knitting and sewing mainly, but my crafty endeavours in general. You will be able to find the show notes for this podcast on my blog, which is cherryheart.co.uk. It's normally the latest post, but I'll link to this specific post down below in case you're watching this at some point in the future. So that's where I'll find the names of the patterns and the yarns and the things I talk about. So if you don't catch anything as I say it, then you can find it there. You'll also be able to navigate this video using the timestamps, which I'll pop in the bar below, or the little bar which pops up along the bottom, which some of you can do on your TVs as well. I was talking about this the other week that I didn't know how to do it on my telly, but apparently you can. I can't do it on my Sky app version, but if I go into my TV app version, it will let me skip through the chapters. So there you go, top tip if you didn't know. And I'm also on Instagram as Sandra Cherry HRT. And that's about it really. Elsewhere around the web as Cherry Heart, but Instagram is where I'm most active. So there we go. That's all my bits out of the way. How are you? How have you been? Have you had some nice crafty moments? I feel like I've made some good progress since we last spoke. I've been having a little sort of rejig of how I kind of get things done, if you like. I'm a bit of a to-do list person, and I've kind of just had a little mindset change around it. So rather than sort of putting down I need to get this job and this job and this job done, I'm now thinking about it in time slots. So it's more I'll spend an hour on this and I get as far as I get, and then I sort of come away and then right, now I'm gonna allocate 2 hours to this. So, and somehow that seems to be making me more, or I feel like I'm doing more anyway. Maybe it's just because I'm sort of, rather than doing one thing and maybe that takes up the entire time and then I don't do anything else, maybe because I'm sort of managing to make a little bit of progress on a few more things. Maybe it's just psychological, but anyway, it feels better, so that's good. So anyway, that's a tangent. Let me show you what I have done, what's changed since last week. So finished objects first, let's do that first. I finally finished my Christmas embroideries. So I've been making these since the dawn of time, approximately. Well, not quite, but it feels like it. So let's show you them one by one. So here's my angel, and they're all in their embroidery hoops now, complete with backing and hanging loop. So this has been quite a faffy job and it's taken me a long time, it feels like. Got this polar bear in red. So I ordered, I think last time I spoke, I haven't shown them for a while because they were progressing so slowly. So I'd ordered my Liberty fabric, so I've got a different Liberty fabric to go with each one. And I knew I wanted to cover the hoop in the fabric, so I got some, but I wasn't quite sure how else I was going to finish it, although I did sort of imagine maybe having sort of some of this ribbon type effect in the Liberty fabric as well to hang it up with. And then someone suggested on the podcast, I'm sorry I didn't check who that was, what your name was, but someone suggested having Liberty on the back as well, which I thought, well, that's a really good idea, because I'd planned to just like put felt on the back or something, I think. But I thought on a Christmas tree they could well spin, couldn't they? So it'd be quite nice if they had a pretty back as well. So yes, I went ahead with that idea, which was rather fantastic. And then this is the last one. Yes, but because it feels like finishing these and putting these in these hoops has taken at least as long as it took to do the original embroideries. So the embroideries I did for the most part in December, and I think I finished one in January, or maybe it was more than one, I don't know. I did finish them in January, and then ever since then I've been working on finishing them. But I'm glad I got them done in February. I was thinking these were going to go into March, and my, you know, my year of handmade Christmas tree, which I've spoken about before. If you're new, you're not going to know what I'm gibbering about, but I won't go into it again because people are here before will be like, we know about this, don't go through it again. But yes, I was going to do a thing per month, a decoration per month. So this one has taken up 2 months so far, 3 months if you count the December. But anyway, the point being is, because I wasn't really sure of each step, it's taken me ages to kind of figure out and arrange and plan how I was going to do it. So covering the hoops wasn't too bad. I did do a little, I don't think I showed it to you on the podcast, I'll pop a picture in. I put a picture on Instagram. I did a bigger hoop as a kind of test run because I wasn't sure whether it would be best to sort of twirl, get a strip of fabric and twirl this round here, like wrap it round, or whether I could kind of just fold it round like that. And I thought if I fold it round I'll probably need a bit of bias tape or something anyway. But I thought I'll see if I can be a cheapskate because it's Liberty. Rather than sort of cut on the bias, I thought I'll see if I can be a cheapskate and just cut it straight and see if I can still get it to go round. So anyway, I did it on this bee embroidery. That worked out fantastically, so I thought, oh, that's brilliant, that's what I'll do. But of course what I didn't take into account is these embroidery hoops for this for these are a lot smaller than they were for the bee embroidery. So I think these were they 3 inches? Can you even get them that small? Maybe they were 4. I'm going to measure them and see. Yeah, okay, they're 4. So these are 4 inches hoops, which was about as small as I thought I could go and still get the embroidery in. But I think the bee one must have been at least a 5. It must be a 6 actually, it's quite a bit bigger than these. Anyway, so because this is a much tighter circumference, it was a lot harder to get it to fold round and get it to go neatly. So what I did is I wrapped, so if you imagine I had a long strip enough to go all the way round, and then I folded it around this outside ring and then I sewed it into place. I didn't know whether to glue it or sew it, but I thought sewing might be a bit more secure, and I think because if I'd wrapped it, I think I probably could have just glued the ends, but as I folded it round, I think sewing was more secure. And then I didn't know how to get the backs on, I had to do the ribbons. So the backs in the end, I decided, so I just cut out a cardboard circle for each one, and then I cut a fabric circle and just cinched the fabric round at the back. So as you would finish an embroidery hoop, you sort of cut it down and then just weave through and just pull the threads together. So that's how I did those, and then I stitched those on as well. Possibly I could have glued them, but they just wanted to sit a little bit more proud, and you would have seen a gap in between. And because I was doing this because I wanted them to look neat on the back, I didn't want to sort of see a gap there. So I sewed it, and then that closes everything up and it just looks really neat then. So I did do that. Then I had to decide how I was going to do these ribbons. So I knew I wanted to use the Liberty if I could. So I thought I'd just do a strip of fabric for that and hope that that worked okay. And I think again, because it's Liberty and it's so fine, isn't it, and you get such a good drape on the fabric, I think that worked out quite well for this fabric. And then the last absolutely agonising bit was tying these bows and getting them to look neat. I don't know about you, but I really struggle to see, they do want to turn a bit. I tried to sort of I did sort of like the hoops like that, rather than just folding it in half. I did them with a twist in to try and, because you know, if the sorry, excuse me, if your tree branch is sticking out like that, you want it to hang on like that, but this, you don't want that way, you want it that way, don't you? So I was trying to get it to hang. It kind of works. Yeah, so tying the bows, I find it ever so hard to get the neat bows. So I tied the first one, and it was all right, it was fine, but it was bouncing around a bit, and these bits weren't, you know, they weren't lying nicely, so I thought I'll just have to put a little dab of glue on just to get them to lie nicely. That's fine, it'll be all right. So then I tied the next one, and it went brilliantly. I was like, oh, that's really good. That's what I want it to look like. I think I've got the knack of it now. So I went back and tied the first one, and yes, it went brilliant. I thought, this is great. I've got 2 of these now. So I tied the third one. This is excellent. I know how to tie bows now. I'm away. But then I hadn't sewn up my last 2 ribbons. So I went and sewed them up, went back to the sewing machine, sewed them up, and then I couldn't tie bows again. So these last 2, I think it was this one and this one were the last 2. Oh my goodness, it took me so many goes to get these tied up. I think, like, you know, I had 2 or 3 goes on this one, and then that came quite nice. I thought, okay, I'll leave it. I've got the knack back again, clearly. And then I went to tie this one, my last one. I just could not do it. It took me about 15 attempts to get that. And I still don't know what I did to make it come out a bit better again. So I don't know. I probably should have looked up some bow tying tutorial, shouldn't I? That's what I should have done. I'm an idiot. Well, anyway, it's done now. So there we are, my first completed project for my handmade Christmas tree, or my handmade Christmas tree decoration project. That's a mouthful. So yes, very pleased with those. Yeah, indecently chuffed with them, in fact, because they actually came out looking how I imagined in my head, and quite frankly I didn't think I would have the skills to accomplish that. So it took me a long time to accomplish it, but I guess it paid off in the end. Right, so anyway, so now I can move on to my next decoration idea, which, because I've got the Liberty out, I've got a couple more Liberty ideas, so I might just move on to those. One is to make some baubles, and one is to do some stars. So I might move on to the stars next. And then other finished projects that I have is, I've finished, well, I've almost finished my Indigo Shawl, which is going to be too long to show you. Let's go this way, because look, it shows up against that background nicely. So this is a made up pattern. Actually, there's something else I need. This stitch pattern I took from a book. Not a stitch directory though, so I don't know what it's called. But I would have thought, you know, it's a relatively simple stitch pattern. I would have thought that would be in a stitch dictionary somewhere, but I haven't got a name for it. I don't know what it's called. What I actually got it out of was a Japanese crochet book. So it was for, I think it was a small sort of vest. But I just thought the stitch pattern looked quite good, so I thought I'd try that out. And yeah, that was the one I ended up going for. So people were, pardon me, I'm full of hiccups and coughs and splutters today. People were asking me about what the stitch pattern was. So yeah, it's out of a pattern book. So I can share the book, obviously. I'll put a picture in actually, because it's back down at the house and I'm here and I'm on a bit of a time schedule today. So I'll just put a picture in here, but it's in, you know, it's in Japanese writing, so I don't know what it's called. But I did get it from Etsy. There's a seller on there, Pompadour24, and she sells lots of beautiful, beautiful Japanese crafting books and magazines, crochet, knitting, sewing. So if you can read crochet charts, it's fantastic. But if you can't, you're going to struggle, because it is all in Japanese otherwise. Yeah, anyway, so that's where it came from. So I don't know what else to tell you about that. I'm sure it must be in a stitch dictionary somewhere. I'll hold it up so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, I couldn't find it in any of mine. So I have finished. I think I might want to put lovely tassels on. Oh, talking of patterns, I haven't spoken about the yarn. So the yarn is my gorgeous indigo, hand-dyed indigo cotton, and it's by Lovely Wool and the Forest. She had a small shop selection that was available. Was it just before Christmas? I think it was. Yeah, so I got it in that, and I just absolutely adore the colour of it. Actually, look, it's not the same blue, obviously, but let's pop it on to show you. So I wanted it to be nice and open. Sorry, just darting back to holding it up to show you, just because I wanted it nice and open to be a nice light summery shawl, because it's cotton, so it's open. So it's going to just hang around and just be mostly decorative, but just a little something around the neck. And I want to put a little tassel, so that will just help that little point come down nicely, and then just hanging on there. Can't really see it. This isn't the outfit I'd wear it on, obviously. But yeah, you can see how sort of over a beautiful summery dress or something, or a light top, it's going to look really lovely. So I'll take it off again because I just want to show you the border as well. So I posted on Instagram. Hair is giving me jip as well today. I posted on Instagram that I'd got the size I wanted and I wasn't sure what to do with the border, so I just went ever so simple with the border. I knew I wanted it to be simple. So it's basically, I've just got shells interspersed with a sort of kind of V-stitch, which I've blocked into a point. So ever so simple. I did try a few ideas out. I got some excellent suggestions on the post, by the way, some lovely borders, some of which came through after I'd started this, which I kind of wish I'd seen before, but never mind. I'm happy with what I went for in the end. But yeah, I tried sort of a few ideas and I thought, do you know what, I'm making it too complicated. The whole point of this was to just be a simple, smooth, enjoyable process. So I just went back to sort of a variation on the first thing I tried, actually. And I just like, just that you've got sort of just have a, can't speak, that there's a slight difference between the solid bits and the points, which I thought echoed sort of the solid shells and the open spaces in the border. So to my mind that kind of suited it quite well. But I just left a little loop either end and in the middle as well, and that's where I'm going to pop my little tassels on there. So yeah, so that was a lovely project, and I've even got, so I think even when I've done the tassels I will still have a little bit of yarn left. So I think I might make, well, I'll see how much I've got after I've done the tassels, but I've got enough to make another little something else, I think. So yes, so that's today's finished objects. Works in progress. So let's go over, my hair is being weird today. Behave. Got a bit, I think I've got a bit of this side over this side and it's just giving me chip. Right. So work in progress. Again, if you've been here before, you will have seen this one. But if not, I'll catch you up. The story so far, last time on Cherry Heart Podcast. So this jumper is the Silver Forest jumper by someone I can't remember. Jennifer Steingass, Knit Love Wool. So it's a colourwork jumper, and the wool I'm using is Drops Flora, which is wool, but it also has a packer in, which leads me to a brief summary of the story about I couldn't get gauge. Alpaca is also quite a stretchy yarn, so I was thinking if I don't get gauge to start with, plus we've got the alpaca, it's going to stretch out, it's not going to be good, we're not going to get a good fit. But when I last spoke to you, I was worried about my colour work. Oh, it actually looks quite good on camera. So I was worried about my colour work because I was about like maybe that far in and it was looking all right, but I really wasn't sure about it at all. And considering I was also having issues with fit, I was thinking this could be a disaster. So I think I decided there were three options. Either my colour work was good and the fit, once I'd done the yoke, was going to look good and I thought I could get it to work, in which case, hurrah, proceed and knit the rest of the jumper. Number two, the colour work looks okay and the fit, but maybe the fit's not quite right, in which case, well, that's okay, because I've just had some really good practice of my colour work. I can go and buy some more appropriate yarn, some nice woolly appropriate yarn. I can re-knit and my colour work will probably come out even better because I've just had this trial run. That was option two. And option three was colour work, dire, fit, bad, in which case just discard the whole project and, you know, maybe just write it off. Maybe I could get yarn and try again, but I sort of suspected that that would be enough to put me off. So I think we have option one, which is colour work okay, fit okay. So the colour work, it looks good on camera, I think. So I blocked it because by the end I didn't enjoy knitting this yoke, I have to say. I didn't enjoy working colour work at all. Yeah, I just don't like it. I just want perfection. I just want my tension to be perfect and the stitches to all look nice and even, exactly as they would if I was doing it in one colour. That's all I want. I mean, is that really too much to ask? But of course, I wasn't getting that. I seem to have a problem because I'm quite aware of not pulling it too tight, because you've got the floats running across. I think I quite often just over loosen and I just leave too much float and you actually get quite these long baggy drawn out stitches. So there are quite a lot of them still in here. I can still see them. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just looking at the back and there are some really quite horrid bits if you ask me, but it did improve an awful lot with blocking. And also lovely Sam from Betsy Makes, I saw her the other day and she was like, I don't know what you're talking about, it looks absolutely fine. She said, you're being too critical, it's fine, it's good, it looks okay. So I was like, okay, if you say so, but yeah. It also reminded me, I was watching Gayna's Tales from Cuckoo Land. She had a video up recently where she went to stay in a little, what's the word? Shepherd's hut, that's it. And she had taken her drawing books because she wanted to do some drawing practice. And she was saying, all I want to be able to do is just draw well without sort of putting the practice in. I was like, and that's what this feels like. I just want to be able to do colour work well without putting in the effort and the hours of work and practice. And I don't think that's unreasonable. I think I should just be able to do it just like that. However, hopefully this will go some way to improving my skills for any potential next time. I'd also be really interested to see if I did get a more appropriate yarn, a nicer woolly yarn, that would perhaps bloom out more. Perhaps I could get better results again. So I would be really interested in trying that. But I was thinking about this, I thought this would be a good idea. I'll just get a small quantity of yarn, I'll knit something small and it will just be, you know, just to see, and that will be good practice too. But I couldn't think of anything to make. So I don't want to make a hat because it will make my head itchy. Because I don't like wool yarn, but I find it really hard to work with wool yarn because I find it so itchy and scratchy on my skin, so I can't have it next to my skin at all. It's just horrible. So yeah, I can't have a hat. And I was like, oh, I'll do some mitts. And I was like, oh no, because I won't be able to have those in my hands either. I've tried socks before and colourwork socks, I mean, no, I can't get them on my feet, it's awful, it was a disaster, I'm never doing it that again. So yeah, I don't know what I could make that would be relatively small and yet that I could still find some reason to make. So yeah, I don't know. So maybe it will just be this one jumper and then I won't do it again for another 5 years. Who knows? But anyway, I knit the yoke, I split for the sleeves, I blocked it, and then I tried it on. And actually at the moment, the fit seems pretty good. So I'm going to continue. I'm not going to make it very long. It's going to be relatively cropped, so there won't be too much weight in the body, which I'm hoping will help. Yeah, just hopefully it doesn't stretch out too much and make it too baggy. I do feel like I could have perhaps had a one size down with the yoke. I feel like maybe I could lose one repeat. It feels like the sleeves, I don't know, it's hard to tell, isn't it, when you haven't got the sleeves on properly. But I'm continuing with it anyway. It could still all end in tears, but hopefully not. But yeah, so I'll knit the body, see how that goes, and then the sleeves, my original intention was to knit long sleeves. I mean, the temptation to just crop them off and have small sleeves now the weather is getting warmer is absolutely ginormous. But I did originally start this and intend for this to be a more wintry thing to wear with dresses and skirts. But you know how arduous sleeves can be. So there we go. It's interesting to see the difference between the blocked and the unblocked stitches as well. It does make a difference, doesn't it? But yeah, so for now the colourwork sweater survives to be knit another day. And then we have one more whip to talk about, which is a sewing one. So this is a pattern that I was actually gifted by lovely Jules of So Sweet Violet. When I did my vlog, I recorded some footage of me making my advent calendar, also by Jules of So Sweet Violet. It's her advent pattern that I was making. And yeah, so she just messaged me and said, oh, I really liked your calendar, you know, let me gift you this hot water bottle. So I was like, oh my god, that's so kind. So my original intention was to make this in January as kind of a little birthday present to myself. But obviously I was knee deep in sewing these things still, so I thought I'll just one thing at a time, try to be not, you know, try and, what's the word, organise your life a little bit more. And so yeah, so I've only just started it. It's a very long-winded way of saying I've only just started it. So I have got, so far, I've got my, I think this is my front piece on the bottom half of my front piece. So it's, you know, got a sort of opening so you can get the hot water bottle out. So that's the bottom bit. So I'm using some gorgeous Liberty fabric that I got from Alice Caroline. And this was a bundle. All these fabrics were in a bundle that she had for sale. I think I might have got it last year, but I think I have seen it still on her site. Yeah, so these all came together, so I thought, well, they'll look nice together. And I really love the colours. I love this jade colour, that's beautiful. Yes. And then I've also done the front top, so that's the top piece. So these will overlap and make the opening. And I'm also doing hexagons on the back. Now you don't have to. So in her pattern, it's hexagons for the front and then just a plain back, but she's also shows like you can do squares if you don't want to do the hexagons. You can just do like a sort of patchwork square. Oh, let's allow in the dog. Right, I've shown you the front pieces, haven't I? And I've started on the back piece. So you can have the back piece plain. In the pattern it's written to sort of have one piece of fabric for the back. But I thought since I've got all these lovely fabrics, I'll make it so it's pretty on both sides. Well, I could have had a pretty one colour, one bit of fabric on the back. But I thought I'm going to carry on doing hexagons on mine. So yeah, so I've got some more to add to this. So the only change I've made is that Jules gives you, so this is my template for the hot water bottle. She gives you templates for the hexagons and also So the hexagon size template, and then also you know, the size to cut the fabric out to make the paper pieced bits. But the only thing is, I already had these hexagons, so if you were here when I was talking about my Alice Caroline quilt that I made, which I can't remember the name of, what is it, Garden? Can't remember, it's completely gone out of my head. Was it Flower Garden Quilt? Anyway, I'll put a picture in here so you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, that had big hexagons that you made with lots of shapes, but it had this hexagon template in it. So this is a slightly different size to the one Jules used, but I thought rather than sort of cut out the templates I need, I just use these ones I've already got. So I've lined them up on the template to just make sure I'm still covering it properly and I've got enough. And it seems to be working out quite nicely. I've even made use of my little half hexagon ones to fill in the sides. So that's rather good. Yeah, so these are nice big hexagons, so they're coming together pretty quickly. So I'll just finish the back and then I can get that sewn up. I mean, hopefully we're getting out of the weather for needing a hot water bottle, but that's me all over. By the time I get round to things, the season has completely changed. But it doesn't matter, it'll be there for next year. I did actually take a hot water bottle up last night because it was freezing. So, you know, I might get use out of it straight away, or I might have to wait a bit, but either way, it'll be there when I need it, so that's fine. And then one last thing to talk about is my crochet style quilt. Again, I'm going to have to put pictures in here. This is going to be a very heavy pictures in here type podcast because I haven't got it with me. It's on my bed. But I finally got around to filming the last video to show how I did the border, that kind of quilt binding style border. Yeah, so I popped the video up for that last week. This will be for you. It was yesterday for me, but by the time you see this, it will probably have been last week. Yeah, so that's up. So I think you've got all you need in videos now to make the blanket. So you've got the 2 colour squares, you've got how I made the blocks, and then I've got the binding on there as well, or border on there as well. But I have also done a written pattern for it, and that's got everything in, all the, you know, written instructions, and I've done diagrams to show how I put the blocks together and the layout I did for the blocks, like how I arranged my colours, and because I put sashing strips in mine. Quilt sashing strips, even though it's crochet, just to have a little bit more space between the stars. So I've put all of that in as well. Yeah, so just sometimes rather than, you know, watching a video to find out, sometimes it can just be easier to have the written thing. So I've done that to go with it as well. I will probably make it a paid for pattern, to be honest, because the videos are free on there. I thought maybe I could try that thing where you do the videos for free, but if people want to buy the PDF, they can. So I thought I'd try that. I've popped it up free for now. I've just uploaded it the other day, so I'll have it free for a little while. So if you are watching this, you know, close to the time it came out, you might pop along and get it while it's free. But yeah, that will change. And I'll start charging for it after a bit. So I thought I'd try that out as an experiment, see how that goes. Well, it's raining now, so we may have a raining soundtrack for a while. Yeah, so I saw Sam, I mentioned earlier, the other day, and we haven't caught up for a while, so she was able to give me my birthday present, so that was rather fun. So I thought I'd show you one of the things she got me, which is this gorgeous book, A Year of Flower Fairies. These are all the fairies you can make. And she also got me, let's see if I can get these in some kind of way to show you, these lovely balls of yarn. So this is cotton yarn. It's the, ooh, can we see that? Not really. Rico Rumi, that is, but it's shiny, so it's kind of hard to see. Hopefully that's working. Yes, they're the little 25 gram balls of cotton for amigurumi. So rickarumi they are. So these are the DK ones. Can you get other sizes actually? I don't even know if you can. But yeah, so she got me some lovely colours to get me started. So I think you can make one of these, so like the body parts of one of these fairies with one ball. And then obviously there's different clothes and things to make. But I think for most of the patterns that I've skipped through, you only need one ball sort of maximum to make each fairy. This one would be interesting because there's a lot of blue in that one. So they've got down the arms and the petals and the legs as well. But yeah, so I think that will be quite good because I think I've got quite a bit of DK cotton that I could also put towards this project. So I'm thinking it might be, because I'm doing my handmade Christmas tree, sort of a year of handmade decorations this year, this might be a good project for next year. Yeah. Oh my goodness. How cute is that? Yeah, I thought that might be a good project I could do because they've got one for each month. Maybe I could make one for each month next year. Though I did have quite a strong urge to start one straight away, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, but I thought that might be quite nice to do. Yeah, so that was a lovely gift. So thank you very much to my lovely Sam for giving me that. And also, while I'm on the topic of Sam, I think I mentioned last podcast about, if you remembered from the podcast she used to do, which was Betsy Makes. And that was her Etsy shop and podcast name. Yeah, some of you mentioned, yes, I remember Sam, any chance of you two doing a special together? So I mentioned it to her and she said yes, she'd be up for that idea. So hopefully we will get that planned in and arranged in the not too distant future. So yeah, it'd be lovely to have Sam come on the podcast again. I'm sure many of you will be very pleased to see her as well. So yeah, so that's to come. Oh, and craft room tour. I mentioned before about doing a craft room tour, and I've recorded that, and I've almost finished editing it now, so I'll be able to get that uploaded soon. So yeah, so watch out for that. That'll probably come up, I'd guess, a few days after this does, or a week or so, I don't know, but at some point. But yeah, I hope that's of interest to people. I've tried to answer as many of the sort of questions as I could, or just sort of general questions that I've got, but also I've tried not to make it too rambly and long because it's amazing how long it takes to go through and show you everything. And you know, I tried to sort of show you in quite a good amount of detail because people wanted to know how things were arranged and what I've got in my boxes and whatnot. So I tried to show you as much as I could and answer as many questions as I could without sort of making it into a sort of, you know, feature length epic. So hopefully it will meet the spot, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. So that's it from me. I will finish there, and yes, I will see you soon, hopefully. Have a lovely time until we next speak, and I hope you find some nice peaceful crafting moments. Bye! Yeah, this is a podcast where my tongue stops functioning.